Good afternoon. I call to order the meeting of the Metropolitan Council Transportation Committee for July 11th, 2022. Our first order of business tonight is approval of the agenda. Did anyone have changes or additions to the agenda? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Fredson. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Zarin. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, and the agenda is approved. Next, we're on to approval of the June 27th, 2022 Transportation Committee meeting minutes. Did anyone have any changes or adjustments to the minutes? All right, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Cummings. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Seconded by Zarin. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, and the motion carries. And we are on to reports. Our first is MTS Director Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very brief update tonight. Quick note that the Transportation Advisory Board canceled its July 20th meeting, so a shorter meeting for them and probably no tab update at your next meeting. Secondly, the 2050 TPP, the Transportation Policy Plan Advisory Work Group, had its first meeting on June 29th. So the group heard a presentation overview of the TPP, very much like the presentation you received at your last meeting. The group then heard an overview of the Regional Development Guide process, again, very similar to what the council's received in updates at Committee of the Whole, but then broke into small groups and discussed some of the themes that have been heard so far regarding values and other work going into the 2050 plan process. So many thank yous to our committee members and to the council members who participated. And we're hoping it's useful and enjoyable as we begin this process. We're preparing notes of the conversations and are looking forward to reporting back to the group in the future. And our work will continue both on the technical side as well as with the advisory group. With that, Madam Chair, I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council members? All right, we'll move on to the next report. We have Metro Transit General Manager Koistra.
Thank you, Chair Barber and members. I just have a couple of reminders and then a little bit of new information. First, as a reminder, we have started the Blue Line maintenance and suspension of service on Blue Line between Mall of America and Airport Terminal 2. Those services that are not being provided by the light rail are being provided through a bus bridge during this time of suspension. It started on Friday and it's expected to go until August 15th. And during this 5-week shutdown, there'll be nearly a half a mile worth of worn track to be replaced. New signal equipment, light wires, and other equipment that guide train movements will be installed with this $15 million capital investment effort. There'll be other Blue Line work in the future. I think our next scheduled major maintenance is for next year, where we'll be also replacing track north of this area. Also on Saturday, we started test running the 2-car light rail trains. As you may recall, this was part of the Safety and Security Action Plan to see if we could run 2-car trains rather, and hopefully that will make us better able to clean them, make us better able to monitor them, and create additional density that we think also helps with security and safety. We're going to be running the 2-car trains through August 19th. If we run across event service that we anticipate will require more than that, we'll add that 3rd car train for those event service. But we think for the most part, and even for most event service, it will not be required to add the third car, given our experience with event service so far. As the test concludes, customer and train operator feedback and other evaluation measures like on-time performance will be used to determine next steps. So this is a pilot, and if it works, we'll extend it. If it doesn't work, we'll have to revisit it and make adjustments or do something different. Also, I wanted to mention that the availability of Green Line extension construction tours. The project office wants to invite council members to tour activities along the corridor. Individual or group tours can be arranged for council members if you're interested. There's also walking tours between July 20 and July 26 already scheduled. If you're interested, you can connect with your community relations staff for assistance in scheduling with Don Hoffner and David Davies at the Green Line Extension Project Office. And then finally, I wanted to provide you an update for 2022 state fair service plans. Right now we are facing the same sort of challenges as we faced in 2021 with an operator shortage. As these members well know, we've had to reduce service as a result of the operator shortage across the board for regular service. And so we'll be providing the same service as what we provided for 2021, and this will offer all-day service approximately every 30 minutes on every day of the state fair at 3 locations: County Road 73 Park and Ride in Minnetonka, 30th Avenue Park and Ride, used to be 28th Street Park and Ride in Bloomington, and then Cottage Grove Park and Ride. Weekday service will operate between 9 a.m. and midnight. Weekend Labor Day service operates between 8 a.m. and midnight. Round-trip fares will be the same, $6 cash, $5 if you use the mobile app or in advance payment. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What's the criteria for deciding if the pilot on 2-car trains is successful or not?
Madam Chair, we have a list of about 7 or 8 criteria that I can't quote, or I'll get that information to you, Councilmember Cummings, but it's a list of performance measures with respect to on-time performance and other sorts of performance measures that we're going to look at, and then also evaluate more qualitative feedback from customers and so forth. But I can get you a document that kind of outlines all that.
I'm just sort of curious, so thank you for that.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Thanks.
All right, any additional questions or comments? All right, then we're on to our next report. Thank you, Wes. On to the report from TAAC. We have David Finley. Welcome, David.
It's nice to be here, Chair Barber, members. So we had a great meeting last Wednesday, the first Wednesday in July. We spent the majority of the meeting discussing the pilot onboard transit survey, and we're happy to see that folks with disabilities were well represented in the results of that across all other demographics as well. It was interesting to see that, I guess not interesting, but it was nice to see that folks with disabilities bounced back pretty nicely in terms of ridership post-pandemic. I know that nothing bounced back fully, but it shows that folks with disabilities do rely heavily on public transit, both pre and post-pandemic wise. 2 things to note: July is Disability Pride Month, and July 26th. Coincidentally, is the 32nd anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. There will be an event that's being planned by a diverse group of folks, one of which is a Metropolitan Council staff member. So you all do have some say in that as well. Just wanted to let y'all know that that's happening, and I'm happy to provide more information on that to you if you need it. That's all that I have for you today.
Thank you, David. Questions from council members? Thanks for your report, and also, yeah, just make sure we have the information for the event on the 26th. I think that would be very interesting and nice for us to go to. So, yeah, I would appreciate the info.
My pleasure, Chair and members.
Very good, thank you. Now we're moving on to the rest of our business. There are no items on consent tonight, so our first non-consent business is business item 2022-180, which is a Metro Transit Agency Safety Plan, and we have Andrew Brody here to present. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Andrew Brody. I'm the Director of Rail and Bus Safety. First business item 2022-180, proposing that the Metropolitan Council adopt revision 3 of the Bus Transportation Agency Safety Plan and the Light Rail Transportation Agency Safety Plan as required by 49 CFR 673. A little bit of background on this: the Transportation Committee and the Metropolitan first adopted this plan back in 2020-2019 timeframe when the regulation first came out. What we were required to review it annually and update it accordingly with any changes that would come of us. This year, with the bipartisan infrastructure law, there is some requirements of that change of that regulation, Part 673. Many of those we're still working on, but we're gonna put it still in this annual review. You may see this come across again later this year, and that's because with the bipartisan infrastructure law, a safety committee has to be developed with equal labor force and management, and we're currently working on that. That deadline is July 31st, 2022, to have a safety committee developed and then have a agency safety plan actually approved by that committee by December of 2022. So don't be surprised if this comes across again later in the year. But with that, I would look to have both the light rail and the bus agency safety plans approved by the committee. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Are there questions from council members? All right, seeing and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2022-180.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Zarin. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Sterner. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Thank you. Next, we're on to the MTS version of 2020, or for 2022-195. Turn back to you, Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this 2022-195, much of the same information here with the Metropolitan Transportation Agency Safety Plan. Same requirements, same regulation. It's just more or less talking about the contracted services rather than our light rail service and our bus service for Metro Transit. Same changes are required of us. We do have a safety committee that meets monthly on the MTS side. We're going to take credit for that within our agency safety plan, and we're requiring our contractors to have a safety committee as well that is comprised of both frontline employees and management equal to provide the same type of commitment to the regulation within Part 673. So again, the Metropolitan Council adopted this back in 2000 when the regulation was required, and this is revision 2 of the agency safety plan for the Metropolitan Transportation Services. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council members? I have a quick couple. You said you're gonna reach out to the contractors to set up these safety committees. How often do they have to report back to us to keep us compliant with what we need?
Madam Chair, I actually meet with them monthly, so they're required to meet with me monthly on a monthly basis. So.
All right. And my next question is the suburban transit providers. Do they also have their own safety committees, or is it part of the contract? Or how does that work?
Madam Chair, currently they have their own agency safety plans that they would have to adopt these same requirements. The council is still required to review those, and that was reviewed during our triennial audit as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, one more call for any questions. All right, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2022-195.
Zarin moves.
It's moved by Councilmember Zarin, seconded by Chambliss. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we're on to business item 2022-172. Same week item. It's the Metro Gold Line Bus Rapid Transit Contract Award for construction. And we have Acting Project Director Alicia Vapp here to present. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So committee members, I'm here today in lieu of our construction manager, Steve Barrett, who is ill today. So I am here to present business item 2022-172, same week. So this is a business item to negotiate and execute construction contract administration and inspection services contract for the Gold Line BRT project. So just a little bit of background, in case you hadn't heard, on June 28th, the Federal Transit Administration approved the project's request for a letter of no prejudice. So that's great news for the project. So this is a big hurdle for us. So this allows us to spend funding on the project prior to the full funding grant agreement, the FFGA, so that is eligible to be counted as part of the local match for federal funds. So this is great news. Just wanted to put that out there as a general update. And then about this business item, so this contract will support our construction management team and be responsible for quality assurance testing and inspections. We did issue requests for proposals. We received 2 proposals. Those were evaluated following the Brooks Act procurement. And then we followed this 2-step process. So first, the evaluation panel reviewed the proposals. We ranked them based on technical merits. And then second, there was a negotiation panel that negotiated with the contractor on pricing and then negotiated some of those items. So SRF is the recommended contractor that will be recommending for this solicitation. The contract had a 15% DBE goal, and then the OEO office determined that the proposal did meet that, actually exceeded by a little bit the requirements for that DBE process. So therefore, I recommend that the Met Council authorize the regional administrator to negotiate and execute contract 22P098 with SRF for construction contract administration and inspection services for Metro Gold Line Bus Rapid Transit Project in an amount not to exceed $13,565,256.44.
Thank you. Questions from council members? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, I'm always curious about when there are only 2 bids received, is that what you would have expected? It looked like there was lots of interest initially, so I'm just curious if 2 was what was expected or is felt to be adequate.
Yep, I think that 2 is generally adequate. I believe with this kind of contract, we were happy to have, 2 to select from, and they were 2 great firms, and so I think we felt like we had a great outcome in the end.
Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you. Just to follow up, do we go back to some of the other ones who expressed interest and find out why they didn't, or do we determine why there were only 2 of the 18, 14, 2, and 2?
Madam Chair, Council Member, that's a great question that I actually don't know the answer to, so I can find that out for you.
I just would be curious. Thank you.
All right, additional questions or comments? All right, I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2022-172, same week.
To approve.
Motion by Chambliss, is there a second?
Seconded by Zarin.
Seconded by Zarin. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And motion carries. Thank you. Next, we're on to business item 2022-181, which is Metro E-Line Engineering and Construction Administration Services Contract. And we have Evan Owens Ambrosio here and Katie Roth. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. Chair and council members, I do have the pleasure of introducing a new employee to you today to present this business item. Evan Owens Ambrosio joined the BRT department in January as a principal engineer. He is a UW-Madison geotechnical engineering grad with about 9 years of civil engineering experience, and he's also a regular transit rider. And though he's new to Metro Transit, Evan is actually a returning council employee. He previously worked in the wastewater planning group in ES from 2017 through 2019. So he's been a great addition to the team so far, and he's going to be leading E-Line design as we get underway with this next phase of the project. So with that, I will turn it over to him to introduce the business item.
Thank you and welcome, Evan.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. So the action before the committee today is business item 2022-181, which is to award and execute contract 21P364 with HDR for design, engineering, and construction administration for the Metro E-Line project in the amount not to exceed $10,741,845. So the Metro E-Line is a planned arterial BRT line that will operate on 13.3-mile corridor, generally upgrading and substantially replacing the existing Route 6 within the communities of Edina, Minneapolis, and St. Paul. So the E-Line will stop at 34 station locations along the route, following France Avenue, Hennepin Avenue, 4th Street, and University Avenue from the Southdale Transit Center in Edina to the Metro Green Line Westgate Station in Minneapolis. The scope outlined in this contract provides engineering and construction administration services throughout the entire project, from the preliminary design through construction closeout for the planned station locations and supporting infrastructure throughout the corridor. So full funding for the delivery of the approximately $60 million E-Line project has already been secured through a combination of federal, state, and Metro Transit sources. Following the award and execution of this contract, project design and engineering will begin this fall and continue up to the final design, which is expected to conclude in Q4 of 2023. Construction is then anticipated to begin in the spring of 2024, with the project completion and opening of the E-Line for revenue service in 2025. So this process included a request for proposals, which was issued on February 11th, 2022. A pre-proposal meeting was hosted by the council staff that outlined the solicitation requirements, discussed project specifications, and responded to plan holder inquiries. There were 21 registered plan holders, including 17 consultants, two subcontractors, 2 plan rooms, and 8 plan holders identified as minority, women, small, veteran, or disadvantaged business enterprises. The council received 3 proposals to be evaluated for the consideration of award. In accordance with the Brooks Act, the evaluation of proposals followed a two-step process. An evaluation panel and technical advisory group representing the council and local agency partners ranked and selected the most technically qualified proposal. Following approval of the evaluation panel findings, conclusions, and recommendations, the costing data of the highest ranked proposal was then reviewed by a negotiation panel that negotiated pricing and agreed that the final prices have been determined to be fair and reasonable. The negotiation panel recommended HDR's proposal as the most advantageous to the council. The Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity set a disadvantaged business enterprise goal of 18% and determined that HDR has met the DBE requirements for this contract. Therefore, Madam Chair, the action for the committee today, as I said before, is to authorize the regional administrator to award and execute contract 21P364 with HDR for design, engineering, and construction administration for the Metro E-Line project in the amount not to exceed $10,741,845. And with that, Madam Chair and committee members, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions from council members? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, are you finding, and I don't know exactly even how to ask this, but so with a contract like this, is it similarly priced to previous administrative contracts, say on the C line or something? And I know that's not apples to apples. I'm just curious if you're seeing things go up significantly, a little bit, go down, or kind of how that is in comparison to previous work.
Yeah, so this was, we had a cost estimate that we came up with internally to determine if the price was fair and reasonable, and so that was based on past contracts for previous arterial BRT projects. And so, you're right, every project is a little bit different with a different scope, a different number of stations, and different coordinated projects that we're working on. And so I don't think that we've seen the prices going up significantly besides just with inflation, just with the number of years passed since the past projects have been done. So I think the value that we had determined to be a fair and reasonable price was pretty much in line with what we were expecting. So,
okay, thank you.
Additional questions and comments? All right, then I'd entertain a motion to approve business item 2022-181.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Cummings. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Fredson. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, on to our last business item for the evening is business item 2022-187, which is also a same week item. It is the University of Minnesota Universal Pass Agreement, and we have Ed Petrie and Dustin Corsini here. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. Ed Petrie, Metro Transit Finance, and I have with me Dustin Corsini. He's a sales operations specialist with Metro Transit Finance. Dustin and I, and also his supervisor, Lisa Anderson, have been working very hard for many years, for a long time, for a universal pass agreement with the University of Minnesota. I've been here for just over 20 years. We have been trying probably for about the last 15 years, working with the University of Minnesota towards a universal pass agreement. And we're very happy, we're very pleased, very excited to bring this agreement forward to you this evening. It's a wonderful pass, it's going to be a wonderful program offering transit to over 39,000 students at the University of Minnesota. So if you can say I'm excited, I'm very excited, Madam Chair. So Dustin and I are here this evening to present number 2022-187. It's a same week item for the University of Minnesota Universal Pass Agreement. We do have a presentation, and Dustin and I are going to co-hit on the slides. First of all, the agreement is a council action, is that the Metropolitan Council authorize the regional administrator to enter into an agreement with the University of Minnesota for a universal pass agreement for registered students at the University of Minnesota for the period of August 15th of 2022 through August 14th of 2026. The execution of this, one of the points I just want to make on this is that the execution of this universal pass agreement is going to provide affordable quality transit to registered students at the University of Minnesota during a time when congestion is growing, fuel price concerns, we all have those. We have those, and there's a strong environmental sensitivity is very, very high. With this agreement, it's a partnership that we've been working on, like I mentioned, very hard and very strong with the University of Minnesota over the last few years on. We developed a universal pass agreement for all registered students at the U of M, which will be approximately 39,000 students. Go on the next slide.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I have a few slides to also review with you today. Starting with building our partnership with the University of Minnesota. Not only do we want this to be a success for the students, but we want to be able to continue to grow our relationship with the U of M since we launched the UPass program in 1999. In the previous years prior to COVID, and for example, years 2018, 2019, we had participation of the UPass program at about 10,000 students per semester. We've had previous years before that where we've had excess of over 15,000 participants per semester at times. In the recovery of the pandemic, we had a slight uptick this last fall with about 6,000 UPass participants. But our UPass revenues are not small. In those pre-COVID years of 2018, 2019, we were able to actualize $3.5 million in revenue. And as Ed previously mentioned, this has been something we've been working on for quite a long time. I think this year was a success because the student government at the U also brought this forward to the U of M leadership. So that I think also helped our case and was also allowed us to be able to leverage the student fees to fund some of this program. We're just touching on a brief overview of the Universal Transit Pass. Unlike the UPass where the student will opt in every semester and purchase this pass will be distributed to all eligible registered students this fall. University of Minnesota will join 5 other metro area colleges that are currently participating in a Universal College Pass, which are Anoka-Ramsey, Anoka Technical College, Augsburg University, which was our first school in a Universal Pass program, Normandale Community College, and McAllister College. We've seen success with these Universal College Pass programs. Augsburg and McAllister alone had incredible increases in ridership after their first year. Augsburg alone had over 100% increase in ridership after their first year, which is the 2019-2020 school year, which, as we know, included the unfortunate beginning of the pandemic in the spring of 2020. So I think there's some evidence there that shows there is some value to the student to have this kind of access to transit in a program like this. So just touching on a few key terms of the contract, as Mr. Petrie mentioned, there'll be 4-year contracts starting in August 15th, 2022, moving through to August 14th, 2026. This pass will be issued to all eligible registered students this fall. The numbers we are getting from the University of Minnesota are estimated to be about 39,000 students this year. Like the other universal products that we have, that'll be valid for unlimited rides on all the regional buses, trains, and the commuter rail. However, unlike the other Universal College Pass products we have, this pass will be distributed to the student on the embedded go-to technology they have on their student pass, which is their U-card. Pricing will be static for years 1 and 2 at $3.5 million per year. Moving into years 3 and 4, that $3.5 million will become the minimum payment and will impose a maximum threshold of $4.375 million per year. And explicitly not written in the contract, there are some benefits to Metro Transit One of them obviously being an increase in ridership, but programs like this, we feel will foster the growth of the transit habit that we hope these students take with them long after they depart the University of Minnesota. With that, I hand that back to Ed.
Okay, go to the next slide. So this gives you just a pictorial of the pricing of the product. So we have a minimum from years 1 through 4 of $3.5 million. It'll be a locked-in price for the first 2 years of $3.5 million a year. Then what we will do then is we will look at the actual ridership that we incurred from February 2023 through February 2024. So we'll take that actual ridership and inflate it up to 125%, not to exceed $4.375 million. So we will then be able to capture the growth that we've seen with this program, go with an inflation factor, and then lock in years 3 and 4. One of the things that when we had worked with the University of Minnesota, they had requested a longer period. And we chose to hold it down to a 4-year period because, like Dustin had mentioned, we anticipate significant growth in this program. That will then allow us then after year 4 to recalibrate the pricing and bring a new price to the University of Minnesota. Because them and us, we both anticipate this will be a very, very successful program for both us and the University of Minnesota. As Dustin mentioned, the funding for this pass will be through the student fees that they will automatically charge the students. The University of Minnesota then will collect those fees and will then remit it to the to Metro Transit on a quarterly basis. And with that, Madam Chair, the council action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize regional administrator to enter into an agreement with the University of Minnesota for a universal pass agreement for registered students at the U of M for the period of August 22 through August of 26. And with that, Chair and committee members, we would stand for any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Ed and Dustin. Questions from council members? Councilmember Fredson.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple questions. First of all, congratulations on this.
Absolutely.
The first question is, does this require region approval, or I don't know enough about how the U operates. Is it a done deal, once we act tonight? And then the second question I had was related to the fees that the U are paying. How do they compare to the fees that, is it a similar rate? Is it a discounted rate in comparison to the other community and technical colleges and private schools?
Okay, Madam Chair, committee members, first of all, this item is a same week item. It'll go to our council this Wednesday, and then it'll also go to the regents on Wednesday. So we're taking it both the same day to both of the bodies. The pricing on this contract, I believe that it's set at, the student fee, I think, is around $45 per semester is what it's going to be set at a 40% discount off of the actual actual fares, cash fares. We have had historically throughout all the years, we've had a 40% discount with the University of Minnesota, and that is the pricing that we have set with this product. But I believe the pricing to the students will be $45 a semester.
Councilmember Fredson.
And just to follow up, so then do the students at the community colleges and technical colleges and the private schools that have the similar agreement, do they get the discounted rate or no?
Do you know?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Fredson, it's different at every college. Augsburg, for instance, used the student green fee and part of an investment from Augsburg to fund we branded theirs the Augie Pass because they were first. Some of the other schools are taking that out of their just their general funding for that. I think of the school. McAllister, I believe, also funded that as well. Out of their own, student fees. It's not like a direct fee, but it was funded by the school and issued to the students through that. So
that's where this is a little bit of a different product. The fact that they're actually going to be charging it back to the students per their student fees that they're paying.
Just to add on to that, it's not quite a discounted rate because this was a pilot program for the other schools. We weren't able to establish a price. So what we did was we set a maximum amount for each school based on previous years, including COVID ridership, just to give kind of a mix of what that would look like. And then we charged them based on the actual cash fare that they used. So with schools like Anoka Tech, and Anoka Ramsey, their ridership looks a lot different than it does for the schools of like McAllister. We're going to attempt and make sure that we can kind of have an even more equitable pricing for all the schools as this program grows. So we're monitoring that with the other schools as well. Now with the U involved, we will have that data to look at pricing going forward.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Councilmember Sterner.
Yes, I just was wondering, thank you, Chair, if the other colleges, have you approached them on this program as well? Other MIAC ones, the technical colleges and such that aren't on here?
Yes, Madam Chair, council members, yes, we did approach many schools in 2019 and 2020 to see if there was interest there. The 5 that we do have were the interested parties. We've tried to go back to the schools, and I think there's just a lot of logistical things in bringing on a pass like that to every student. So, we will try and make sure that we reach out again to offer this so we can have more schools in that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any additional questions or comments? General Manager Koistra.
Yeah, Madam Chair and Councilman, I just want to again, thank staff for their work on this. This is a big deal. And the student and this Universal Pass product in itself is really an important product to our future. It doesn't have to be limited to educational systems. It can be large employers. It can be there's lots of potential in this, and I think it's a way to grow our ridership and create transit users as been discussed. And I just couldn't be happier with what's taking place at University of Minnesota, knocking on wood that the regents will see it the same way we do.
And one thing, Chair, Committee members, I'd like to add to what Mr. Cloister mentioned. We're also into talks right now with the University of Minnesota. They've actually approached us about their employee group, about bringing the universal, because we have the MetroPass today, but they'd like to have like a universal MetroPass concept with their employee group. So that would be something we're going to start discussing with them, start working with them, and we'd hope to bring that forward possibly in the fall of 2023. So knock on wood that if this program goes, that's what we would hope to bring forward on the employee portion.
Councilmember Chambliss.
Yeah, I just couldn't pass saying something about this. This is a great accomplishment. That was a school that I attended college, and I know how valuable having a convenient pass that's tied to their student ID is going to be to get around with increasing costs. And, there's no status level with it at all. Everybody's at the same level. Everybody has the opportunity to use it, so you don't have to feel like, you are in a different class than other students. It's great. It's already stirring up interest with the employees, and I hope other companies hear about this and consider doing the same.
So do we.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Was the University of Minnesota's interest in extending the contract period simply to lock in a rate primarily?
Yeah, Madam Chair, Committee members, that's one of the things that they want to do is they want to be able to have some price certainty going out in the future. One of the things that we just explained to them as fact is that we anticipate this program will extremely grow.
Mm-hmm.
So we also wanted to have some budget certainty on our side too. And they understood that.
Mm-hmm. Well, congratulations. It's really exciting. That's
Thank you.
great.
Okay, any additional questions, comments? I have a quick one. I just, very nicely done. I think this is wonderful. And I have kids in this age group, and I can tell you I love that this was really pushed by the student body, because I can tell you that that's where their heads are, is they're interested in getting around with, bikes and transit and things like that. So I think it's spot on. So I'm really excited to see this. So very good. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve business item 2022-187, a same week item. Moved by Councilmember Sterner. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Chambliss. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Now, we're done with our business items. I recommend that the first 2 items go on consent to the full council. Obviously, the 2 same week items will go non-consent. And then the E-line can go probably non-consent as well, unless there's any. All right. All right, now we're on to information. Our first information item is the first half FTA semi-annual DBE participation report. We have Trina Bolton here to present.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Trina Bolton, and I'm the Equal Opportunity Consultant with the Office of Equal Opportunity, or Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity, excuse me. I'm here to present the first half of the FTA semi-annual DBE participation, and let's get started. So the DBE utilization, so the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, DBE, is administered for federal funds. It is utilized for construction, architectural, and engineering, and professional and technical contracts. The annual goal is set every 3 years, and it's currently from 2021 through 2023, and it's 14%. The small business staff sets the goals, and we report the utilization semi-annually. So the report currently is from October 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2022. And then the achievement against the 14% annual goal is based on awarded contracts. So the DBE utilization is right in front of you. So the total dollars to prime contracts was approximately $45 million. To DBE primes, it was $1.8 million. The total dollars to subcontractors was approximately $22 million, and $7.6 million went to DBE subcontractors. We achieved 20.9 awarded DBE participation for this reporting period, exceeding our 14% goal. So we're really excited about that. In terms of construction types that were awarded this period, $35 million went to professional services, $4.6 million to construction, and then $4.9 million to subrecipients. And then DBE awarded contracts by gender and ethnicity in June. We have shown a lot of growth in the distribution across racial categories. We significantly increased the utilization of DBEs and have awards to Black American women, Hispanic American women, Native American, and subcontinent Asian American men, which is great improvement from the last report. And not only is our achievement one of the highest, but for the first time, a group other than white women-owned businesses had a higher dollar value in awards, which is very exciting. And then in addition, Black American-owned firms made up 12.6% of the dollar value of work awarded to DBEs this reporting period, compared to 0% from the June report last year. And then some of the major contracts were the Metro Purple Line, BRT project, Advanced Engineering, 21P242, the amount 27 or close to 28 million, with a DBE commitment of 22.9%. And then the MVTA Burnsville Garage Modernization Phase 1, and that was 3.5 million, with a DBE commitment of 7.2. So some success stories, 2 DBE firms were awarded prime contracts. It was primarily, I guess, one Asian Pacific American male firm that received both prime contracts for that one. And then 1 Black American woman and 3 Hispanic American women-owned firms were awarded contracts, and there weren't any awards this last reporting period. And then 1 Native American male firm was awarded a contract, which was also exciting. And then in terms of process improvement, we've just been doing more targeted outreach to different firms. For the bigger projects, we've been doing meet and greets. We continue to do outreach for our mentor protege projects and pairing small businesses, DBE firms with prime construction firms. We are focused on SIM and goal setting, and then we have a new engagement and development unit, as well as data teams, and then the Advancing Equity Grant. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of them.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council members? Councilmember Chambliss.
Just thank you for presenting this work. I know there's been a lot of strategies and tactics to have these type of successes, and I remember, when I first started on the council, these numbers were not as diverse as they are today. So thanks to the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity for the advances that you've made so far. You know, and I'm hoping that it continues. We got on the board with some of the groups, went from 0 to 1. That looks like a big increase, but we know there's a lot more work to be done, and whatever best practices that have been in place, if those continue, I'm sure we'll see more gains. So thank you so much to your team.
Thank you. Any Councilmember Cummings?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the numbers look good. It's great to see that kind of improvement in the things under the process improvement heading there are interesting. I'm sure that there are additional ways that we're looking at to continue to increase these numbers in a more robust fashion, and certainly reaching out to those who are coming into the fold is, I hope that we're in close conversation, asking them, you know, why now and what else could we be doing? So do we have any other things that are sort of in the works to even make those numbers look better?
Madam Chair and committee members, I mean, our new outreach and development team, now we're starting to get 2 more members on board, which will help a lot to expand our reach. So I think that's the main thing. We'll be able to do more one-on-ones or like small business meetings with different small businesses and set up, you know, per the scope of work that people are going for. If it's concrete, we can have a small business meeting with those types of firms and get them kind of on board with how we do business and kind of loop them into working with different prime contractors. So we're looking to, you know, reach out that way now that we have more resources.
Councilmember Cummings?
Just a follow-up comment. I think that this shows that the really intensive outreach to those that we are trying to include has been really, really beneficial. So I hope that we can grow that and continue to expand with different ways to do that and capitalize on that, because this is really important.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Additional comments or questions? I'll just add quickly to echo some of the comments. I think this is great. I mean, it shows that some of the strategies we've been trying to put in place is sort of the work that we do on a daily basis and for big projects is really starting to kind of take hold in some different places. I would love to see in the future report like a comparison percentage change from the year before, because I think that's kind of helpful to see, you know, because some of these things take a long time to a certain extent, but we want to make sure that we're seeing short and long-term changes, and I think that would be helpful. So
definitely.
All right, well, final call. Any additional questions? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we're on to Metro Transit Marketing and Transit Initiatives. We have Bruce Howard and Adam Mel and Ben Rozkowski. Welcome.
So good afternoon, Madam Chair and council members. I'm Bruce Howard, Director of Marketing and Transit Information. And as the chair mentioned, along with me, Adam Mel, who's a Senior Market Development Specialist, and Ben Rozkowski, who's our Manager of Transit Information. So we're here to share with you information about 3 new initiatives that we really feel our customers are going to be excited about. First of all, Adam's going to talk about mobile tickets in third-party apps, and then Ben's going to talk about something we call transit information media blending and direct response interpretation services. So just before I get to Adam and Ben to talk about specifics, a couple comments from the kind of 10,000-foot level, if you will. One of the things and strategies we're using in marketing and transit information to help rebuild our ridership is really using technology to be more efficient, to be more effective, and to meet our customers where they're at. And so what do I mean by that, you know, meet customers where they're at? Well, just a couple examples, and you'll hear more from Adam and Ben, but if you're a customer who prefers to use Google, let's just say, to plan and take a trip on transit, you shouldn't need to use a whole separate app to pay for your transit ride with a mobile app. So it's one of the examples. Another one, if you're a customer who maybe uses a chat or text feature to get your banking information or your medical information, you know, why should it be any different for your transit information? So that's really at the heart of what we've been trying to focus on here as we try to rebuild our ridership, and Adam and Ben are really good at what they do. And so today you're going to hear from them, and they're leading us in this direction with some of these new exciting technologies. And with that, I will turn it over to Adam.
Thank you, Chair, council members. Yeah, so we'll talk about some advancements that are coming in our mobile app. There's some examples here, what we'll get into in a little bit, but really it's about, as Bruce mentioned, meeting our customers where they are. So a quick overview, just as some history for our mobile app in general. We started selling mobile tickets back in 2016. Our current vendor we launched with in July of 2021, Token Transit's their name, and we've been working towards what I'm talking about today since we launched them. That was a large portion of why we selected them. Is one of the features they brought to the table was really seamless and easy and great integration with other apps. This is part of a larger industry trend that transit is seeing, not just here, but generally a few years ago when we started the app, the idea was maybe transit would become the mobility aggregator. This was in the early days of a lot of mobility, things like scooters and rideshare and things like that. It's since moved away from that. There's a lot of players in the field, and a lot of transit agencies have moved to just saying, we want to provide our tickets and let these aggregators sort it out and be in many places where the customers are, rather than managing such a system ourselves. Some numbers for you. Pre-pandemic, we were obviously cooking with ridership. We were cooking with ticket sales. We sold 1.5 million tickets on the mobile app, around $4.5 million. Right now, halfway through the year, a little more so, I guess, we're as of end of June, we had sold just over 500,000 tickets, $1.2 million. So it's growing month over month, much like our ridership, and we're seeing it stick around and ticking up a little bit around that 5% of our total sales number. So as I mentioned, or as Bruce mentioned, we have our own transit app. We have a way for customers to get transit information through our web tools. We have people able to get ticketing. But really, there's a lot of other options out there that maybe our customers are using. They might be using Google Maps or Move It or Transit app. And so one of the features that came with Token is they had turnkey set up with Google, Move It, and the Transit app. Google being on Android only, but Move It and Transit app being on Android and iOS. We'll also still continue to support our Metro Transit app and obviously support that and allow people to use it, but this is giving people options for apps that they might prefer. They might prefer the trip planning, the interface, for whatever reason. We in Metro Transit and in Transit Information particularly have been moving to support those other apps with better data, better transit information to make sure people are, if they're using a different trip planner, are getting trip plans that make sense and get them to where they go. This is the final step in that to help get people to go from start to end and pay for their trip and find their information in one spot. Benefits for our customers. That's why we're doing this. As Bruce mentioned, meeting our customers where they are. They might be using Transit app today. We don't want to make them have a bunch of apps and a bunch of logins and things like that. It's also enhanced exposure for us. It puts us in these mobility apps on equal footing with other competitors, we'll say, whether that's rideshare or scooter share or whatever. In many of those apps, you can purchase those today. You can purchase your fare and do all that stuff in those apps. And so now it's just one less barrier for people to take that ride with us. They don't have to set up a new account. They don't have to download a new app. They can take that trip just like they would any other service. It also gives some discovery when you are a visitor. If you land and you're using Transit app, that's already in many, many cities. You may not be able to pay in other cities, but you may be using that as your main navigation app, and that'll be right there when you land too. So it's great for people who are travelers, it's great for discovery, and it's great for people, again, who just prefer these other tools. It's also an opportunity to be in other apps too down the line. So this is the first step. A bonus of this is that we'll have the ability to say, this is just an example, be in, say, the State Fair app, and you could buy your ticket in the State Fair app, or you could be on, the Lyft app, who's aggregating transit information and scooters and doing all sorts of things. There's a lot of options where we can be in many places where people are using mobility, or whether they're going to a game or doing a special event. As everything's moving digital, there's a lot of ticketing and everything. We can go there. Another big benefit for this is low to no impact to Metro Transit operations. The ticket is the same. It's not a similar ticket. It's not a ticket that looks the same. It's literally the same ticket, whether you're in Transit app or the Metro Transit app or Google. It's a direct interface with the same back end, the same tools that we would see. So from an inspection standpoint, from a fare collection standpoint, from a customer support standpoint, we can support these tickets in the identical manner that we're doing today on our own app. So that's a really great bonus. Another great bonus is there's no additional cost or commission to selling our tickets in these other platforms. We pay the same approximately 7% fee, which is right on par with the go-to card and quite a bit lower than cash. We pay that whether it's in our app, Google, or whoever. So there's really no negative consequences from a financial standpoint either, which is great news. Again, part of the reason we selected this vendor. Not every vendor offered such a nice option. We're looking to launch this July 18th. We're still finalizing the exact dates with some of the vendors, with Google and Move It and Transit App. It'll be no earlier than that. We'll have something launching that day. They may come a day or two later based on whichever company, what they decide. But we'll be ready to support it, and we'll be doing a soft launch for that. So what that means is it'll just show up on people's apps. We're not going to do a ton of promotion. We'll obviously be able to support it from an administrative and staffing standpoint, but we want to have it be a soft launch and have some discovery so we can, make sure there's no kinks or unexpected issues, with plans to do some more formal promotion post-September, post-State Fair. So, are there any questions?
Thank you, Adam. Questions from council members? I'll just say I'm very excited. So I know when I do business travel and that sort of stuff, having the simplicity of one place to look for something without having to download a bunch of stuff is so helpful. So very excited.
Thank you.
All right. Turn it back.
All right, Madam Chair, committee members, my name is Ben Rakuski. I'm the manager of transit information at Metro Transit, and I'm very excited to introduce two projects to you today that really will improve customers' access to information and improve the overall customer experience. So the first project being led forward by our Transit Information Center is our Transit Information Media Blending Project. And so media blending is really just kind of a fancy way of opening up new channels to customers to access information and access our Transit Information Center. And so we are launching both chat and text now options for our customers. Our Transit Information Center will move from a call center, which we've been historically all these years, now to a contact center, providing that live assistant to customers via phone or chat or text all the hours that we're open. So one, Bruce had mentioned utilizing technology really to meet customers where they are. That's one of the key points here. Bruce also mentioned that chat and text, it's not new technology. People are used to using it, and it helps people where they are, whether they're on the street, at the computer, they're able to access information via those channels. They may not be interested in calling, or they may not be able to call at a given time. So this kind of improves the access to information. And not only improves access, but it also puts them in touch with a transit information representative. Our reps go through robust training. They're experts in route information, schedule information, stop information. So it's really great to have our reps being sort of the back-end support through additional channels. So we're excited about that. And this launched on June 21st. So 3 weeks now we've been live. So we've been kind of a soft launch. Had an article in the Star Tribune yesterday, so that actually peaked some call volume or chat volume and text volume this morning. But we look to do additional advertising as we move into the fall. Just to give you a look here at what you'll see, if you've gone onto our website lately or our mobile site, you'll notice on the bottom right of the screen, there's a need help icon or button that you can access to initiate a live chat or get information on how to text us. And the really cool thing about this is it follows every page that you would open on the website. So whether you're looking to plan a trip, get real-time information, get alert information, look about fare information or policy information. If you get stuck or just need some additional clarification, help is literally just a click away on the need help button there. And here are just a couple examples. You won't be able to probably read the individual text, but that's okay. On the left is an example of a chat conversation with a customer, and on the right is an example of a text conversation. And just a couple of unique things that chat and text allows us to do. We can now embed links and direct people to specific places on our website and specific information. So in the chat example on the left, we've linked to a Route 7 map for the customer who had questions about the Route 7. So that's just great benefit to the customer to be able to kind of go directly to that information. And then you can see in the text conversation, the trip plan information all the time is laid out on the customer's phone as they go out onto the street. They don't have to worry about calling back or realizing they forgot what they wrote their information down on. They have it right in front of them, so they know when their bus or train is coming. And just a few next steps here, we'll continue to look at the both the back end and the customer experience, continually improving this service to our customers. I mentioned we're planning a broader marketing communication plan for this fall. And then into next year, early part of next year, we're looking at customer relations rolling out a chat feature as well, which will be great. The option will exist on when you bring up a live chat to choose transit information or customer relations, so both departments will be able to have chat enabled at that point. So I can stand for any questions about media blending before I present the next.
Thank you, Madam. Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have an idea of what the average wait time will be on either a text or any kind of contact? And will the person trying to reach the information center be, oh, you're 27th in line, or it'll be 3 minutes, or how does that work?
Yep, Madam Chair, Councilmember Cummings. So actually the wait time is exactly the same as it would be for a call. So it's we have them prioritized all the same right now. So whether you call in, text, or chat, whatever the wait time is to reach a rep through any of those channels is the same. So we've kind of throughout the pandemic had a pretty low wait time, less than a minute generally for customers. It depends on time of day, what's going on, but whether you're calling or chatting, that wait time will be the same one way or the other. So we're not prioritizing a queue. And just as far as knowing how much time is your wait time is or where you are in position, that is not enabled yet. That's one of the items that we have on the roadmap with the vendor. We have it for the phone. We don't have that for chat or text to let them know, which would be a great feature. We agree, and it's on the roadmap.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Councilmember Sterner.
Thank you, Chair. I just was wondering, I know like with operators, we have shortage of staff. How about our transit information center? Are we fully staffed, or are we looking for more people to give us the right effective communication?
Yeah, great question, Madam Chair, council members. So currently we are, through natural attrition throughout the pandemic, we've had a reduction of call volume. We're about 60% roughly of the call volume that we had been pre-pandemic. And so we've, through natural attrition, our budgeted transit information staff levels, 32 reps, and we're down to 22 reps at this time, but we've maintained a level of service that we're aiming for. With the addition of chat and text, we have the ability to staff up. We don't know what kind of volume that's going to generate, but we feel comfortable that we can staff up accordingly. So we're not in a position where we're short operators or short TIC reps and needing to hire, but we will need to hire eventually here to just kind of keep up with the existing demand. Yep.
Okay, additional questions, comments? All right, I have a couple of quick comments. First of all, I love this as well. And I think you will probably get a lot more information, and because I think it's easy for people to use. And like I said, people are used to doing this now, of chatting or doing the text kind of thing. I would love to learn after a few months what the change in volume of contacts is. I think that would be really interesting information. And then my one other question is, we have the text for safety number. So what happens, is there a process in place if something comes into this to get the information to our police department or to whoever needs it?
Madam Chair, great question. Regarding sort of learning about the volume, I totally agree. Not only that, but also understanding kind of the difference between, do people have different questions via chat and text than they do via phone? So those are all things we're pretty interested in. If questions came in that involve safety, we have, as we would do today, we have our supervisors who'd be in touch with our control center to get that information directly over to them. So it'd be the same process that we do today to make sure any safety or immediately or items that need to be immediately attended to are taken care of.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
More check, any questions? All right, back to you guys.
Okay. So the second project that I'm excited to discuss today is our direct response interpretation services. And so direct response interpretation services is really, it's kind of the first shift to our language assistance that we offer a customer. We've had interpretation services available to our customers for about a decade. Currently, that process involves having to request an interpreter from one of our transit information reps or our customer relations reps. With direct response interpretation services, we're actually going to kind of shift that paradigm so those options are available to our customers at the front end of the call process. And this will provide direct access to interpreters to our customers. We had anticipated launching tomorrow, as the date indicates here. looking to push that back likely a couple days. We're still working with the vendor on a couple final testing items, but hopefully just a few days to have those resolved, and we'll be launching. The new call flow on the right, if you can take a look, you'll see that the first major change is that everybody has an option to select an item as they call into the main Metro Transit number. To press English, or to select English, you'll press 1, and then you'll have the option for Spanish, Somali, Russian, Hmong, Vietnamese, and Karen. And those languages were selected based on language line usage that we've tracked over the past decade, and also in alignment with Met Council's Title VI Language Assistance Plan. So that's how we selected those languages. And just to note, if customers want additional languages that aren't included here, they still have the existing option of requesting an interpreter from our transit information or customer relations staff, and we'll dial out directly to language line like we've done historically over the last decade. Some of the benefits to customers, all the messages are now recorded in language. So once a customer makes a selection, all the messages they hear after that are recorded in that language. This improves access to not only the transit information, which often can be complex, but also to our services, customer relations, being able to file a complaint, make a recommendation, provide a commendation, all those things this will help improve access to. And it just reduces the obstacles riders face today. Like I mentioned, they no longer have to navigate those prompts and messages in English just to request an interpreter. They will have those messages in their language. So this is an example of a call flow. In this case, the customer has selected option 2. And once they select that option, they have kind of four options from there. All will be recorded in their language. If they select option 2 or 3, that goes directly to a language line interpreter in their language and then connects directly back to transit information or customer relations. And for our next steps, we'll launch the service, and then we look to do some targeted in-community marketing, really trying to target the riders who are have need for this information. And then we'll also be continuing to review the usage that we see along with our Title VI Language Assistance Plan. If there's any changes to either the usage or languages included there, we can make updates and add or remove languages accordingly. And with that, I will stand for questions.
Thank you. Questions from council members? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is actually sort of outside of your scope, but with the collective transit brain trust in here, I'm going to throw it out here because I've also got emails floating around. But I had an interesting email from a constituent in my district that I had not heard asked before, and he is wondering if our light rail system appears on Google Maps in the transit layer. He says it does not, and that while it might seem inconsequential, having the light rail appear in Google Maps would encourage more people to use public transit, and that when the only thing that appears is highways, people will take highways. So is that something that we're thinking about, we're doing,
Yep, Madam Chair, Councilmember Cummings, great question, and I have to confess I saw this in advance because it came through customer relations.
Oh, good.
So I'm cheating a little bit, but the answer to that is, information is included. There's kind of a light gray line indicating the route line with stops for light rail. The specific question I think is for Chicago, they have the colors of the specific lines, which is great. And that actually is a Google decision. We brought that to Google's attention, and they put it in they've noted our request, but they say generally they don't do it for markets our size. So we'll continue to push on Google to do it. I agree with your constituent that it would look great and it should be there, but it's a Google issue, not us. It's not anything we can control in the data.
That's great. Just as a follow-up, am I getting this back in an email so I can detail it to my the questioner?
Yeah, I forwarded information.
This isn't our final conversation, right?
Yeah, to customer relations, so hopefully they're circling back with you, but I'll certainly make sure that
Thanks
happens.
so much.
Yep.
Any additional questions or comments? I've got a couple, just a general one. Number one, I think that's fantastic that you knew about her question because it had come through our customer interface center, which I think is just fantastic. It shows that this is really working, that we really pay attention to what comes in, and I think that's fantastic. The other general comment is for all of you for the presentations that you went through. I think all of this is great because you're really looking at sort of that customer experience, the user interface, all of these things. It's that kind of attention to detail that's going to really help us as we move in trying to build ridership coming out of the pandemic. And I think all of these things, the more user-friendly we can make it and the more responsive to our customers, what they're seeing, what they're feeling, what's happening, helping them get around through the system is just going to help us. So, you know, it's one of these things that might just get overlooked unless you run into something you can't find. But I really appreciate you guys taking this really proactive approach to it. I think it's really, really important actually for the customer experience. So, all right, final call for any questions, comments? All right, thank you, gentlemen. All right, with that, that concludes our information for the evening. So unless there are any objections, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Sterner, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Zarin. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And we are adjourned.